you're blowing fishermen out of the water. They're doing these Forrest Gump shrimping or whatever they're doing, and suddenly a bomb drops and everybody's dead and there's no due process. And this guy, remember the stories, alcohol in the breath showing up late at Fox News. These are Fox people who said this for us. So no, I didn't say it. They said it. Pete Hegseth, accused of committing war crimes with boat bombings. He's really getting off on this, folks. Former top military lawyers on Saturday said new reporting on orders personally given by U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth in early September, when the military struck the first of nearly 24 boats in the Caribbean, suggests Hegseth has committed war crimes, murder, or both. This is incredibly serious stuff. Former JAGS working group, established in February in response to Hegseth's firing of Army and Air Force JAGS, said that the dismissal of the military's top legal advisors set the stage for the Defense Secretary's order and the continued bombing of boats in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific, which have now killed more than 80 people. Hegseth's systematic dismantling of the military's legal guardrails led to the formation of the working group, pointed out the former JAGS. Had those guardrails been in place, we are confident they would have prevented these crimes, these killings. Post reported for the first time on the directive Hegseth gave to special operations commanders as intelligence analysts reported that their surveillance had confirmed the 11 people aboard the boat were carrying drugs to the U.S., an alleged crime that in the past, and in accordance with international law, would have prompted U.S. agencies to intercept the vessel, confiscate any illegal substances that were found, arrest those on board. But as the Trump administration began its boating bombing campaign, the order Hegseth gave was kill everybody, one of the intelligence analysts told the Post. Yeah, kill everybody. You know, it used to be they took great pride in intercepting drug vessels, and then they would take members of the media like me, and they'd say, look at this haul. And there'd be all these bricks of cocaine, and it would be the best show and tell for local media. Oh, you take those shots, and there's your lead story. Now we have to just take their word for it, don't we? I didn't take their word for it back then either. I mean, I don't know where you got this stuff. Anyway. Post's reporting comes less than 2 weeks after NBC News revealed senior Judge Advocate General Paul Meagher, a Marine colonel at the U.S. Southern Command in Miami, had spoken out against the plans to begin bombing boats in the Caribbean, specifically warning in August that the operations would make service members liable for extrajudicial killing, murder. According to 2 individuals with direct knowledge of the operation, who, like 5 others in the report, spoke on condition of anonymity, the Special Operations Commander overseeing the mission ordered a second strike, specifically to comply with Hegseth's instructions. The survivors were killed in the water. That detail, an alleged second intentional strike, is what jolted Republicans into action. Give me a break. What I just read there is absolutely gut-wrenching. It's chilling. But it's the part that you didn't already have enough to spring into action. That it had to be much more extrajudicial killing, more murder before you spring into action and do your job, the job we sent you there to do. Give me a break. But this is where we are. Late Friday, Senator Roger Wicker, Republican out of Mississippi, GOP chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator Jack Reed, Democrat out of Rhode Island, committee's top Democrat, announced they had issued inquiries into the Pentagon and would conduct, quote, vigorous oversight into the circumstances of the September 2nd attack. You're right. Next day, House Armed Services Committee leaders, Representative Mike Rogers, Alabama, Representative Adam Smith, Washington, another Republican and Democrat respectively, said they were taking bipartisan action to obtain a full accounting of the operation. A Republican-led panel turning its sights on Trump's defense secretary and possibly Trump himself is rare. Political shockwaves were immediate. Hegseth has responded with defiance, not remorse. Look, folks, this is what happens when you have an entitled, a white male in America who has not been held accountable throughout periods of his life, kept failing upward despite a lack of respect that people have for him. He kept failing upwards. And his own mother, remember the letter she wrote him? Email, whatever. There's more. On X, he dismissed the Post report as, quote, fake news while simultaneously affirming the mission's lethal goals. These highly effective strikes are intended to be lethal, kinetic strikes. Every trafficker we kill is affiliated with a designated terrorist organization. Chief Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell insisted the narrative is completely false, but neither he nor Hegseth disputed any specific allegation regarding the second strike. Hey, look, Jackson, they can kick people out of the press corps. So, you can only report what we want. Now they just have clowns left. You can do all that. But the reporting is still going to filter through. It's still going to get out, a lot of it. There are people who say this man should be adjudicated immediately for these extrajudicial killings. And it's a slippery slope, okay? Regardless of what you think, this is a truth safety zone here on TYT. Obama killed extrajudiciously. Obama killed, okay? The drone attacks, he was a prolific drone attack killer, okay? So if you want to go down that road, there's some more arguing that you better be prepared to go all the way because there's no statute of limitations on murder. But this Hegseth, the doubling down, and now the Republicans, particularly the Republicans, waking up on this Armed Services Committee and saying, we're going to go deeper. I do think they are actually doing that, besides me saying, give me a break. I think they're actually going to be doing something here, but I still call them cowards. They're doing it because Donald Trump, even today, has hit the lowest approval ratings of any second term ever, okay? And he's being defied, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is fleeing with her space lasers, and it seems to be falling apart at the fringes, and more is to come. And Hegseth already wasn't liked by people who were in the same MAGA movement. What comes of this? Long way of asking you, what comes of this?
Well, a lot of what we're looking at is, the complete collapse of the Republican establishment. Donald Trump may be exempt from being prosecuted, but people like Pete Hegseth, people like Stephen Miller are not exempt from prosecution. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, maybe even 3 weeks ago at this point, the U.S. military carried out their 21st strike on a Venezuelan boat. And that was a couple weeks ago. Like, we're just doing it and doing it and doing it. And then the excuse that that they're drug dealers, first and foremost, even if that was true, so what? And it doesn't put any type of real dent into the drug trade because most drugs come here on airplane or over the Mexican border. So they know this. This isn't something they don't know. And what a coincidence! Venezuela has the biggest, largest oil reserves on the planet. That just so happens to be that. And Donald Trump, since he has been in office from 2016, has made comments about Venezuela's oil. So there's really no ambiguity about what's actually happening. But again, the real problem for people like Pete Hegseth is we'll see, but he may end up looking at prison time. Probably not, given the history of how things typically go with people in these types of powerful positions. But I just don't know what the Republican Party is going to do, at least in the near future, after Trump's term comes to an end, because they don't have anybody else who really can pick up where Trump left off in terms of just sheer numbers at the voting booth. They don't have anyone else who has a cult-like following, and anyone who tries to be like Trump will fail at it miserably. So we got to continue to take advantage of opportunities to get more progressive politicians into office, because the Republican Party really, truly is falling apart live in front of our faces.
Yeah, it's I go back and forth with this, but I I think today I'll sway this way. There is no Republican Party. It's been dead.
Yeah.
It was overtaken by this regime. It's not like when the Tea Party dominated it for a time. This is a complete takeover. This is a hostile takeover. There's no Republican Party left. They took over and they kicked out any of the old guard. So it's just that way. I will say this. Something made me look up who went to prison in Nixon's Watergate. The Hegseth better be careful. I'm not so sure he won't. Okay? Ask Haldeman and Attorney General Mitchell and, Ehrlichman. Okay? It's not a foregone conclusion that he's in the clear, so we'll see.